All right, here's the Halo 9 iLF-X409. I got this to install on a 2004 Toyota Sequoia. The good thing about these is it actually takes a single DIN radio and it kind of has a floating screen out front. So I have an unboxing video of this. If you want to check that out, go look at my other videos on my channel. But these are the things that I got from Crutchfield to work with my Sequoia. So this is a Control Pro 2 universal interface for vehicles with Canvas GM Land Class 2. This is basically allows you to hook up your aftermarket radios to your steering wheel controls, and it's got all kind of adjustments you can make. You can kind of see right there. You click the tabs up or down for different adjustments. So there's that. This is the Ready harness made by Crutchfield. I'm not sure if that's the part number or not, but this is the same Ready harness that works for the older Halo 9, 259 and 309. So I did talk to Alpine and they are the exact same connections like that. This Toyota, basically a dash, you can see it's a single DIN with an open under that. I suspect the radio is going to cover up all of this right here, but there's that. You know, I might try and see if I could mount the radio just high enough to where I could fit my phone in here and rest it in here while I'm driving, so that might be good. So first thing you want to do is go ahead and mount the single DIN unit to this plastic thing, and you can see here I got 2 screws on each side. These plastic pieces that go on each side of the unit are separate, and they slide in and clip in to this plastic unit here. And you want to use the screws that are rounded. This is the hardware that it comes with. It comes with a bag of smaller screws and a bag of larger screws, and you can see these are flat faced and these are rounded. So you want to make sure you use the larger ones that are rounded, put 2 on each side, and clip in the unit like that. So let's get out to the car and we'll get the rest of it installed. I should have looked at the instructions before I tried to install the single DIN unit into this. You want to make sure you have the gap on top, not on the bottom. So gap on top, not on bottom. First thing we want to do is go ahead and pull this trim back here all around this radio. You're going to push both of these vents in. If you look, there's a screw up in each one. You got to undo that screw and then you can pull that trim piece back. So let's go ahead and get that done. Okay, got those screws out. You can kind of just pull from in here and it should unclip. You can just pull this out and set this down here. Unless you want to take all these clips out, you can go ahead and do that as well. So this unit in mine is an actual analog unit. The way you can tell is your unit, your head unit. I actually installed this one. This is an E7003. Midway through 2004, they swapped from an analog to a digital unit. So to my knowledge, no Sequoias came with this nav unit installed, although there might be some, I'm sure. But if yours does not have a nav unit, just go and read whatever kind of code that's on the bottom of your radio, and you can Google that or get on eBay and see if yours is a digital or analog, if yours is 2004. If it's 2001 or 2003, it's going to be an analog system. If it's 2005 to 2007, it's going to be digital. So the JBL systems are a little bit different if it's analog or digital, but this E7003 is the newest head unit you can get if you have an analog system. Next thing we're going to do is take off these 4 10mm bolts over here. So let's go ahead and get to that. And this head unit right here will be for sale for anybody who's interested. Some things to note is that the newest maps you can use on it are 2016, which are, I have the CD in here for that. I also have a module here, which you can see with this cord here. The module allows you to hook up an old iPod to it, but I've got an actual Apple adapter that goes to a lightning cable here. So you can hook up your phone and it tricks the head unit into thinking it's a CD, and you're able to play your music through the head unit that way. So let me get this pulled out and unplug everything in the back. You can see all the plugs there. One of those is the module. This gray one up here on the left, that's the antenna, the GPS antenna, I believe, but I'm going to go ahead and get all those out. All right, so that's what the old head unit looks like. Had to call Alpine and do a few things, ask a few questions. This exterior Remo end plug, this is out of the preamp harness right here. This does not is not required for this install. I guess there's an auxiliary Alpine switch unit you can buy that this plugs into to help control a few extra things. For our installation, we're not doing this. Also, there's no factory sub RCA plugs, so we're not going to be using either of these two. However, with the Ready harness here, also, sorry, we're not using the iData link. I just plugged it in, so if I ever sell this unit, I'm not looking for that cable. So this is what the Ready harness plugs into the main large plug at the back of the radio, and that plugs into the larger plug that comes from the factory right here. Also, the smaller plug that's here currently is unplugged, and this is what controls the factory steering wheel controls. If you have this, the unit, the SWI CP2 interface unit, I have instructions for this. I'll go over all the instructions on how to do this, but for right now, I'm not going to be installing that, so I won't be going over it now. But out of this preamp here, you see rear view camera, auxiliary input, so that's just a regular headphone jack, and then you got the RCA for the rear camera right there. But let's go over the RCA plugs. So this these white, gray, purple, and green plugs come out of the Ready harness right here. So these come out of here, and then they plug into the front output and the rear output. The way you can remember which color goes where is the red typically means right. So red is right, white is left. And with the Ready harness here, the white goes into the front left, the gray goes into the front right. So like I said, red is right, gray goes into the front red, white goes into the front white. Now moving to the back, red is right, like I said, so the purple is the rear right, goes in, so purple goes to red, green goes to white. That will make sure all your speakers work correctly. All right, this is about 2 weeks after the initial install. I had to wait for a few parts to get in. But next, we're going to be talking about how to adjust these. You can see this is the orientation that the switches need to be for the Sequoia. I'll post a chart up here showing the different wires going into certain locations. What we're going to need to be doing here is tying into the 3 wires out of the smaller factory plug to work with your steering wheel controls. If you don't have any controls on your steering wheel on your Sequoia, some of the SR5s don't, you don't need to worry about this, but this is for the people who want to still maintain their factory steering wheel controls. All right, I know this looks like a rat's nest, but these 3 wires that are coming from this Ready harness, one of them is white black, one of them is white, and the other one is black. That's a ground. Those go into the smaller plug. I actually just clipped off the plug with enough wires on the plug to still splice it back in the future if needed. I taped that up there so I won't ever lose that. But you're going to use these 3 wires and splice those directly into the 3 wires that go into this plug right here. So as shown on the diagram, I'll put it up on the screen here. So follow that diagram. The other ones that are shown for the larger plug here, they already come wired into the right spots on this ready harness, so you don't need to do anything there. So you only need to splice in these 3 wires here. And then another thing that I got was a unit called the Best Bypass. And what that does, comes in a little kit like this, Best Bypass. The Best Bypass looks like this right here. It's this little module and it has 4 wires. And this is a universal unit. But what this does is it gives you access to use the radio, like settings, and you know, if you have a HDMI in, you can use that while your parking brake is not engaged. So these head units have a safety device or safety feature that's built into the device, where to get to certain features like the video or like some settings, you actually have to be in park and have the parking brake engaged. I'm not condoning breaking the law, but if you wanted to use, say, maybe like an Amazon Fire Stick, or directly plug your phone into an HDMI in onto the head unit, you can use this to work with that. So let me go over how this works. This unit does not require the yellow wire here, so you can see there's no exposed wire coming out of that. The green wire here goes directly into this long wire. It's yellow blue. On all Alpine head units, the yellow blue wire is the parking brake. So this wire ties in directly, if you look, right into the main plug. This is yellow blue. So this yellow blue wire is for the parking brake, and that goes directly into this green wire of the Best Bypass. Now this other long wire here that's with that comes directly out of this Alpine plug, it's like a orange-white color. Wire is like a trigger wire, so you hook this up into the positive end of your reverse lights. And I already have a wire run back to my reverse lights from the first backup camera that I installed, so I'm just going to tie this end down to that. But if you don't have that, you're going to have to run a wire from this orange-white wire into the positive end of your reverse light, so that way anytime the reverse lights come on, it triggers the camera and it'll pop up the video on the actual screen here. All right, here's the reverse, triggers it, goes in, and if you want to move this little thing from the top to the bottom, see up there, I can't really see. So this camera has been installed for about 4 years. I will note that I'm going to change a few things whenever I get the rear bumper and mount the camera to the bumper. The way I wired this camera up is it draws power directly from the light, the positive end of the rear backup light, the white lights that come on when you go into reverse. I wish I wouldn't have done that, because if, like, I'm in park right now, if I try to go to the rear camera, there's no power on the camera. And because this head unit and the actual, I used to have a little video monitor in here, which you can see when I turn it on right there. That's where my backup camera used to be. But both the rear view camera here, the rear view mirror camera, and this actually have a wire that also is supposed to be run and spliced into the positive end of the reverse light. So that's like a trigger wire. So whenever you go into reverse, it automatically pops up. And also, you know, there's been a few times when I wish I could have just had the camera pulled up like this. Maybe when I'm towing something, I want to check something out back there. I would like to have had the ability to just hit rear camera and also get a rear view camera right there. So if that's something you're interested in, wire up the power for the camera to a constant power, like maybe a light, a brake light that, you know, a power source that only comes on whenever you turn the key on and turns off whenever you turn the key off. And then run that trigger wire, like I said, directly to the positive end of the backup light, so that way whenever you go into reverse like that, it pops up. So another thing to note, make sure you run all of your external wires that you plan to use on this radio before you install this radio. It is a pain to get this radio out once it's installed. I made the mistake of, you know, thinking I would just get back to it, and it was a bugger trying to get this thing out of the dash, because I wanted it so close and tucked in that it looks, you know, kind of factory and doesn't stick out. So some things that you're going to need if you want to use all of the features here. I got this for my backup camera. So this is just kind of an extender here, this AV cable. It goes back in here. Also, I have this aux input here. I got a male to female 10-foot extender here. So I'm going to run that and hook it up to another aux input out there. I also got two 3-foot HDMI cords, because there's going to be an HDMI in and an HDMI out on the back of the head unit. I'm planning to use the HDMI in for like a Fire Stick, but if I ever want to use HDMI out, maybe to add some extra monitors in the back or something like that, I don't want to have to take the whole radio out. So for just a few bucks, I went ahead and put that other HDMI cord in. And another thing, make sure you stick all of this through this head unit mount before you do anything, because you don't want to have to just keep on trying to input and take it all off. One final thing to note is on this SWI CP2, I already showed a video showing you all of those, along with the instructions showing you which orientation those switches need to be. But on one end, it's going to have a thicker black wire and a blue-yellow wire coming out. Make sure you plug this into the back of your Alpine unit if this is what you're installing in the Sequoia. This other unit, or this other wire here, this blue-yellow wire, is only for certain, a few Kenwood different radios, so we will not be using that blue-yellow wire. So again, make sure all the connections that you plan to have plugged into the back of your radio are run before you install everything finally, because it is a pain to get out. So let's go ahead and get this all put back together and show you the final result. Okay, you can see on the right side of the screen here, that's the top of the unit. This is the way you want to orient the screen. You want the brackets all the way slid to the top, and you want that one screw holding the tilt of the screen in that way. And you also want to make sure that you put this little plastic covering. That's what clips in to the plastic unit around here. Sorry, it's kind of hard with one hand. So the plastic unit that it's like a trim faceplate piece. It kind of is just a board right here. You want to make sure you put that on here first, because to screw in everything in here the right way, it's kind of a pain. So again, this the unit that basically sets how far out the screen is all the way in, and you need to make sure you put that this little plastic piece with the one screw on the top, because it will not play if that's not in. You can see the trim piece, kind of these clips. That's what I'm talking about, needs to be on. I'm not gonna lie, these little plastic tabs that hold the actual single DIN unit in, they feel extremely flimsy when they're loose, but once it's in, it's actually it's in there pretty good, so I'm happy about that. Also, you gotta look in there. There's a little tab right here that needs to go in that top section right there on both sides. So make sure you put that in there as you tighten those 4 10mm bolts down. That's what it looks like before the faceplate is installed. I'm actually going to try it and see if I can mount the screen in a way that still looks good, but I'm able to slide my phone in here as I'm driving to kind of keep it as a holder. This would be much easier to do if you had this unit out. So I would do this before installing it in the vehicle like this. But there are 2 screws on the top, one in here, one in here, and 2 screws in the bottom. You can see I've taken this one out, but I still need to take this one out. So I kind of test fit the unit. This slides in and out. I think it would fit closer to the dash and look much better if this was slid in. So I'm going to go ahead and try that, and I'll get back with you guys. This is an HDMI bracket that helps make sure you keep the HDMI cords plugged into the back of the radio. Of course, again, I put everything back in, so install this before you put the whole radio in. Again, learn from my mistakes. I should have looked at the instructions before I tried to install the single DIN unit into this. I'm going to make sure you have the gap on top, not on the bottom. So, gap on top, not on bottom. All right, here's the final install. See how close to the dash it is. Pretty bright outside right now too. You can see it really well. You can see the screen is super responsive. Here's the main reason I got it right here. Still need to get a few switches for in here, but I got the HDMI in, and I got the Apple CarPlay. I also installed this little aux in right here, so I can use this aux in if somebody doesn't want to use, maybe I'm using like my phone for the GPS and somebody wants to play their music right here, and it also charges. So I'm gonna do a dual battery soon, so that's what this is for. And then I'm gonna have some switches up there. I'm probably gonna put the HDMI cord in here, figure out a way to kind of repurpose this ashtray for something useful. And then I'm gonna have a Amazon Fire Stick in here, connected to my phone hotspot, or I have a auxiliary hotspot as well I can use. But yeah, very happy with it. Hey guys, thanks for watching this install video. It does seem like it's kind of overwhelming at first glance, but if you get the ready harness and those other parts that I mentioned, it's actually a fairly straightforward install. Learn from my mistakes on this install. There's a few things that I wish I would have done differently. It would have saved me a bunch of time, and I didn't have to wait as long in between installing it the first time and kind of getting the stuff I needed and then doing it again. So the first thing I would mention is make sure that when you install that single DIN onto those plastic brackets that go into the larger plastic bracket, that you install the single DIN the correct way. So there's a little prong that sticks out, and the prong has two metal pieces. The one that's wider goes on the bottom, and the one that's a little bit more narrow is on the top. And make sure that there's a gap. The plastic gap is on the top of the more narrow metal prong that sticks out. I had done that upside down, and whenever I went to actually install the screen onto the single DIN, I realized it was upside down. I had to pull everything apart and do it all over again. The next thing is, for me, I think it's going to be easier to install the screen outside, the screen to the single DIN outside of the vehicle, or outside of the actual installation area, because I didn't know exactly which orientation the screen needed to be in at first. So I installed the single DIN first before I installed the screen, so I can kind of adjust where I wanted it. For me, I wanted my screen really close up to the dash, but that makes it a lot more difficult for this install, because you don't really have a lot of room behind the screen to do stuff. So, but if you're gonna do this install with the screen really close to the dash, you cannot forget to put that little plastic trim faceplate in between the single DIN and the screen. It's got to go in between there. Whenever you slide the single DIN in to install it, that little faceplate is what actually clips into the larger plastic bracket. So you got to stick your fingers behind the screen, go around that until you hear those four little clips clip into the plastic bracket. So make sure you install that faceplate first. Another thing is, before you install the single DIN with the screen on into the actual location, you have to make sure the wires are coming up and running through the actual plastic bracket, and also you have to make sure that you put in that the Sequoia trim plate that has like the AC vents and the AC controls. that needs to go on before you put your all screen and single DIN unit in. I had forgotten to do that the first time, so again I had to take everything apart just to get all the wires through the correct way and then put the screen on that way. Lastly, there are some plastic cover pieces that go over the screws that adjust how you mount the screen, whether you slide it up or down, and how you tilt it. I forgot to put those on a few weeks ago, but whenever I took everything apart to do this install just a few days ago, I realized I forgot to put those on, and those plastic covers just kind of clip on and just make it look like a more finished radio. Another few tips and tricks is make sure that you would, every single wire or connection that you want plugged into the back of the radio, just do it now. Buy the $4 extension for it, because it is really a pain. Once it's fully installed, it is a pain to get it out without feeling like you're going to break the plastic trim pieces and all that. So you know, like for example, I think I mentioned it in the video where I don't know if I'm ever going to have an HDMI out, but I went ahead and just bought the HDMI cord to plug into the back, so that way it's...
My apologies. I couldn't hear what you said.
Stupid Siri. So, but yeah, I just went ahead and put the HDMI out cord, ran it back behind these switches that are the switch panel that's down here, just in case I ever want to do that in the future, along with some other stuff. I ran it to the back behind the switch panel, so it's much easier to access those wires just by pulling the switch panel out versus having to like undo the whole dash just to get to it again. So I would highly suggest doing that. It's just getting all of the wires and running them from the radio unit back to where you can get to much easier. So hope this helped you out. This is a great head unit. You know, one of the weaknesses of these first gen Sequoias is the technological advances that have happened since they stopped making these first gens has really come a long way with user interface and stuff on the radios. Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and even some GPS and topographical mapping stuff. You really do get a lot of usability with a radio like this. There are some other cheaper options out there, but I wanted this unit because for me it just looks like it fits perfectly. It doesn't look too out of whack. You know, I don't really like all the different color head units. I want it to look really clean and slick. So hope this helped you out. Thanks for all the support from you guys. If you have any questions on this install, leave a comment below. I typically try to answer the comments within a day or two, so I'm sure I forgot something in the video. So if you do have questions, just reach out to me and I'll try and get you the answer to the best of my abilities. Thanks for watching, and I hope you're having a great day. Consider hitting that like and subscribe button down there, because it really does help the channel out. I'm trying to grow this channel to 1,000 subscribers, so please just consider doing that if you found this video useful at all. Thanks again. Have a good one.